Do you live in your comfort zone? So many of us do. And why do we do that? Because it's comfortable, it's safe, it's secure, and we know exactly what we're going to get. But the truth is, greatness doesn't come when we live inside our comfort zone. And that's what we are talking about today. We're talking about trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, trusting in yourself, and believing that greatness is on the other side. Understanding that even though the journey might have some pivots, pitfalls, and bumps along the way, that is where true growth, true greatness happens. So stay tuned and listen to us and listen to my guest, Brenda Hernandez, talk about breaking through and breaking out of our comfort zone. I'm Clara Capano, and this is Women Winning Their Way. Well, welcome, Brenda, to the show. It is so great to have you here as a guest. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh my God, thank you for the opportunity. I am truly honored to be a guest.
Yes. Well, we met maybe almost 2 months ago when we were just outside of Boston at an event together. We were both speakers there. And when I listened to you and your messaging on stage, I knew I needed to get you on the show. One of the things that we talk about here at Women Winning Their Way is the idea that as women, we don't have to live by others' expectations of us, and that we have the ability to not just knock down the door, but sometimes kick it off of its hinges, which is exactly what you have done. We have this idea of comfort zones and the idea that we are safe in our comfort zones. But that's not where we grow and that's not where life happens. So I would love for you to share a little bit. When I say the word comfort zone, what comes to your mind when you think about, living inside your comfort zone?
So, in the immediate comfort, right? Like not challenging ourselves, kind of going with emotions,
Mhm,
uh, just taking it day by day. That's
mhm,
what comfort means to me.
mhm.
Breaking out of the comfort zone, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah. So tell me about how you have been able to break out of your comfort zones. I know that you had a big life one when you actually relocated here to the United States, but tell us a little bit about your journey in breaking through comfort zones.
Yeah, so when I was 15 years old, my parents, Puerto Ricans, had made a decision to move us back to the island. And most people, when they think about Puerto Rico, they think of San Juan and how amazing that is. And let me tell you, the island is absolutely gorgeous. And at 44 years old, I can certainly appreciate everything it has to offer and all of the beauty. But at 15, they moved us to the center of the island, literally in the middle of nowhere. I would open my bedroom window and I literally could see cows and chickens and roosters. And literally, the closest mall to us was about a 45 to 60-minute drive. So you can imagine at 15, it was a culture shock. I mean, at that point, I was speaking more English than I was Spanish. On top of, I was in high school, was being removed from all of my friends. And so there was all of these just emotions that I was processing. When we moved, I just intuitively, I knew that that wasn't going to be my forever. And so I actually conjured up a crazy plan, and I would take the savings or my allowance that my mom would give us every week, and I opened up a savings account. And for the next 3 years, I saved up every penny, every dollar. And then in May of 1998, when the school informed that I officially would graduate, I went and took out all of my money and I walked across the street to the travel agency because back then there was travel agencies with a travel agent and a computer that booked your flight for you. And I booked a one-way ticket back to Massachusetts. And I didn't even know what the plan was, Clara. I have
Mhm.
no idea. I was just like, I'm 18 and I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And as I'm sharing that with you, sharing that with the audience, and literally reliving it, I think at that age, I just knew how to tap into my intuition and
Mhm.
knew that somehow if I took that leap of faith, things would just work out for me. And they did.
And they did. I want to go back for a moment because you talked about you knew this wasn't the place for you, so you started saving your money, and that takes a lot of discipline to do that. And I think, regardless of whether we are teenagers, adults, or whatever, it's always this idea of the short term pain for the long term gain. It could be the idea of saving money today for your future tomorrow. It could be not eating the extra dessert today so that you can fit into your bathing suit on the cruise this summer. How did you? Because especially when you're a teenager, you have all this outside noise that is saying, oh no, come have fun, come play with us. How did you find that discipline and stick with the discipline to use this as leverage to get your dream when you knew your dream was several years away?
It's funny that you asked that. And I think I was born with a fire inside of me. And
Mhm,
once I have something fixated on my mind, I will do whatever it takes to achieve that. And
mhm.
so I just made a decision. Like I made a decision and I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. And so it's funny because when I went home and told my mother that I had bought a one-way ticket to leave, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like for her. Now that I'm 44 and have a 21-year-old, and if my daughter came to me and was like, "Hey, I'm leaving," I'm like, "Oh my God, like what is going on?" So I can't even imagine what that felt like for her. But I remember her saying, like, "I can't support this, but I'm gonna give you $100. And when you fall on your ass, the doors are open for you to come back."
Mhm.
And I was just like, that's not happening. Like I will not fall on my ass. And so I will do what it takes. I will, like a fire just burns inside of me and I get super focused.
Yeah. And I love this idea of, going forward when you don't have a plan, because you did that when you moved back from Puerto Rico. But then also, the other thing that I learned about you is you really have carved out your space in real estate, specifically as a real estate investor, and, started buying properties. But also at that point in time, when somebody came to you with an opportunity, you said the same thing. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I just knew it was going to work out. So tell me a little bit, because I think so many of us, from the moment that we have that thought, we get caught in the how and we get paralyzed by the how, and then we don't take action. How do you get past and quiet the fear and go forward without having a plan? Because so many people need that plan.
So I think that's such a good question, and it's funny because I won't get into full details right now. I'll save it for later. But I actually wrote a blog in the Small Business Association newsletter just recently talking about that exactly. I think I always had an intuition that I was willing to follow. And if I had to name that for me, it was God. Like I'm just a God faithful person. And for other people, it can be the universe, it can be a small voice. But for me, it was that. And so I meditate and I pray a lot. And so when I get that feeling in my stomach, it's like an intuition and energy. I just know I have to jump. Like I just know like no matter what happens, it might not look like what I thought it was going to look like, but I know that there's an opportunity there and I
Mhm.
can't miss out. And so to your point, my partner Roger came home one day and was like, I want to start investing. And I was like, what does that even mean? And he was like, well, I want to invest in real estate. I think it's a great opportunity for us to like build financial security and build, generational wealth. And I was like, sign me up. And he was like, oh, you want to be a part of it? And I was like, oh, 100%. Like, if you're going to do this, I'm doing it. And he's like, okay, well, you're going to have to come up with like a capital contribution. I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure that out. I don't know how, but like, I will figure it out. But sign me up. I'm in. Like, tap me in, coach. I'm going in.
Right.
And so what I did, Clara, is I sat with myself for a little while. And then I got this intuition to just take out a portion of my 401k and use that. And
Mm,
that's exactly what I did. I pulled out half of my retirement and I started investing in multi units. And before I knew it, it really just started taking off. And
mhm.
so, like in the beginning, I knew nothing. I tell you, I knew nothing. But along the way, we started getting educated. We just started going to RIA groups and watching YouTube videos and buying books and connecting with people who knew what they were doing so we could learn from them. So that would be like my biggest thing. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out, it's one step at a time.
Mhm. And I think that's so true. And one of the sayings that I always love is the vision comes first, the how will find a way. But
Yeah.
what I really appreciate that you said is you didn't just blindly go. You might have blindly made the decision, but then you educated yourself along the way. You really leaned in to learn, to watch the patterns of others who have had success so that you could take these somewhat calculated risks. And I love, again, the idea of tapping into your 401k. That's another comfort zone. A lot of people don't do that because that's their safety net. And not that I'm telling people to just go and just fly 100% caution to the wind and put yourself into a dangerous or dramatic setting. But again, starting to look at these checks and balances. And sometimes we have to invest in ourselves if we're really going to get to the version of ourselves that's out there. Now, as you went on these journeys, I'm sure that it didn't just happen all beautifully. And that's another thing I think with comfort zones is we step out of the comfort zone and then we face challenges which become uncomfortable. And so many of us then retreat back to the comfort zone. What were some of the maybe challenges or struggles that you faced, and how did you, kind of work through them and work past them?
Girl, if I shared all of the horror stories, we would be here for days. Like,
Mhm.
no, we went through it. We definitely went through it. We had horror tenants, like, literally destroy our apartments. We had tenants that didn't pay their rent on time or pay their rent at all. Um, it was definitely uncomfortable. But for us, we just kept like our eye on the ball. We knew what our end goal was, and that kept us going. And so I think that when you can set some goals for yourself, it's going to keep you on track. I think in life, we all need to learn how to pivot and we need to be comfortable with pivoting. That's just essential in anything that you end up doing. And I think if you can adopt that, then it doesn't, you're going to have your challenges, but it'll teach you to figure out how to overcome the obstacle versus submerge or allow that obstacle
Mhm.
to drown you.
I love that. As busy professional women, we need to stay on top of our health and energy. The Working Women's Channel is proud to partner with Snapback Energy as a sponsor for today's episode because they help us to show up as the best version of ourselves so we can take on the day no matter what is thrown our way. At Snapback Energy, their scientifically perfected formula is made to make you feel great, and it also is going to increase the overall energy level you have and the health of your gut and liver. Let Snapback Energy be part of your day and help you build the energy to fuel your mind, your body, and your goals. So now from a business perspective, obviously you're doing very well in your career. I know that you have taken your real estate and you've created like some staging areas. You've done some stuff with Airbnbs. So talk to me about how you've been able to leverage and take this into other avenues. And what are some of the advice that you could give to others that are following the show about, going forward and making new revenue streams?
So before I even jump into that, like let me share with your audience how things transpired. Because when I jumped into the real estate, it was really just to secure my future.
Mhm.
However, what ended up happening was it filled me with confidence. I was at a job that just wasn't comfortable anymore. I felt stressed. I felt unappreciated. And so, what the real estate did for me was allow me the opportunity to evaluate what was happening.
Mhm.
And I decided after 23 years in this corporate position to actually leave. And so, again, I listened to my intuition about moving forward and investing in this space, but it actually opened up doors for me that I never even imagined. And
Mhm.
so, through that capacity, what ended up happening is when I left work, Roger and I, my partner, sat down and we're like, all right, like, where do we go from here? And so I didn't necessarily love the multi-unit space. And so what we decided was he was going to buy me out of my portfolio, my half. And then I actually took that portion and I reinvested it in short-term rentals. And so
Mhm.
what ended up happening through there is one, I started making really good money, but then it actually opened up my eyes to the creativity piece of it. Like I fell in love with the interior design piece of it. And so then shortly thereafter, I started a new business called Designs by Her, where I'm working with realtors and investors in staging their homes. And I'm also doing Airbnb consulting now. So again, it was just like following my intuition allowed for all of these other paths to
Mhm.
transpire.
Yeah, I love that. I want to talk a little bit about how we model behavior. One of the things I talk a lot about with especially working moms, and so many of the people that are following the show are working parents. The idea that how we show up sends messages to our children. But whether we have kids or not, it sends messages. And I think sometimes as women, we hold back on our dreams. And again, we live in the comfort zone and we stay at jobs that are not fulfilling to us, thinking we're doing good by our kids. But what is the message we're really sending them? We're sending them the message that it's okay to stay in an unfulfilled life. Knowing now that, your daughter is a young adult, she's in her early 20s, talking about what do you feel are some of the lessons that you hope your daughter has taken away from watching you go through this growth in this journey?
I hope that it strengthens her. I hope that she I hope that she can learn that confidence is something that you have to work at. There's this facade, right? Because of social media that everyone's like supposed to have it all together. Like there's this
Mhm.
vision that's created on social media and everyone's painting their best self, you know? And so I hope for her she can see this is something that you build. You have to work at it.
Mhm.
And I hope that I also inspire her to continue to take chances. And I think I have, Clara. When she was 18, probably 3 months into being in college, she decided that that wasn't for her. And she came to me and was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It doesn't fit my vision. And I was like, wait, what? And it took me a second to like allow her the opportunity to build her own path. But she
Mhm.
was bold and she was strong about it. And she was like, no, like it's not for me. And I was like, okay, you know what? I accept that. I received that. Like, how can I possibly tell you what to do? And so today she's actually a licensed esthetician and she is loving that path. And so
Mhm.
yeah, I'm hoping that, for her, it just allows her to know that everything takes time and it takes discipline and it takes risk.
Absolutely. And I think also going back to when you told your mom, I'm moving back to Massachusetts, even though she said, when you fall on your butt, you can come back, she never said no. She at least said, you have my blessing. And I
Yeah.
think in doing that, because I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm going through that with my son right now, where he probably isn't going to follow the traditional path of going to college and doing those. And at first, it's very challenging for me because I am such an academic. but that may not be his path. And
Yeah.
so, being able to say you need to follow your own path and have your intuition. I want to talk a little bit about this intuition because for whatever reason, I think people have a hard time tapping into it.
Mhm.
We second guess ourselves. Are we listen is that little voice one that we're creating? Do we really want to pay attention to it? Like, how do we know? Like, do you get I know that you mentioned, your higher power for you is God, but do you get a feeling in your stomach? Do you like get signs? Like, how do you tap in and how do you know it's really your intuition and not just, something else, maybe society, social media feeding these messages to you?
So I think from a very early age, I've learned to sit with myself. And so I have a full routine and where I'm literally like meditating every morning and praying and sitting with myself and trying, right? Because it's a work. It really is work to try to understand like what is happening with me in this moment, right? And so I think as you build a routine for yourself, and you don't have to sit in meditation, it can be whatever works for you, right? But you start learning who you are, right? And so I know that when my gut, it's like an energy that is in my stomach, aligns with my head, that's when it's like, move forward, there's something here.
Mhm.
And that's something that I had to learn, but I learned it because I built a routine to tap into what's happening inside of me.
I love
So
that.
I think that's what I would say to everyone is like, figure out who you are. And I think when you can figure out who you are, then you'll learn how to trust yourself and
Mhm.
trust in universe, God, whatever it is you want to call it. But it
Mhm.
all starts within.
Yeah. And I think that idea of trusting yourself, and one of the things that I often say about me is I'll bet on myself all day long. And I think, that's kind of a different way of saying it, but you
Yeah.
have to believe. And I think again, that confidence that you were talking about that you've, instilled in your daughter, is doing that. So again, be confident in yourself and believe that, you can. Again, you don't have to have it all figured out. So,
Mhm.
you've already accomplished so many great things. So what's next for Brenda? What are some of the other things that you're working on right now?
So I'm working on developing and building out my home staging business, Designs by Her. But I'm also working on like collaborating with other strong women. You mentioned Jen Potter earlier when we were talking separately, and I just find her to be such a force. So I'm looking on collaborating with her and helping her do whatever it is that she's focused on so that I
Mhm.
can learn from her as well. So that's where I'm at. I'm trying to connect with beautiful, strong souls and learn from what they're doing by providing a service to them. So within that, I've actually made some beautiful connections, and I'm actually working or will be working soon with someone who has an interest in developing women. And so the idea is as we develop or help these women find their voice, they're going to probably want to like rent some office space, and so maybe there's an opportunity for me to come in and create an energy and a vibe for them in their office. So really I think there's going to be a lot of collaborating going on and just a lot of like supporting other women, because that's where I want to be, Clara. Like I want to make a difference.
That's so fantastic. So, tying into that, I just want to let everybody know that all of your information is going to be in the show notes. So, all your websites, every way to get a hold of you, because I know some people are going to want to reach out to you. But when you are sitting where you are today, one of the last questions I always love to ask my guests is sitting where you are right now, knowing everything that you've learned, where you have come from, even where it is you have to go. How do you define success for yourself now?
At 44 years old, my definition of success is completely different from what it was at 34, 36, or even at 40. I think success for me today is having the strength to step out of my comfort zone and push forward no matter the obstacles.
Love that. Well, Brenda, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. You have so much confidence, so much beauty, and I can just feel the love in your heart to want to be able to pay it forward. And I know that there are so many great things on the horizon for you. And I can't wait to help open doors and help you unlock that and connect you with others. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. So, all right, everyone watching the show, my goodness, I love her confidence. And, so many things that she said. I wish I would have had her in my circle when I was younger because I didn't always lean in. I didn't always step outside my comfort zone. I had a lot of that fear and not listening to my intuition. So, some of the things that I wrote down is, again, don't worry about having the plan fully figured out. I know there are some of you out there that love to have that plan. That's what gives you the security and the comfort to do it. Have the goal. Let the goal guide you. Again, educate yourself, find other people that have done these things so you can learn from them, but don't always feel like you have to have the plan figured out because even when you have the plan, I guarantee you it's going to change and you're going to have to pivot. Make the decision. Again, tying in with you don't need to know the end result, but you got to decide. Action doesn't happen until we make a decision, and then we've got to go forward. She talked a lot about, again, the inventing yourself and having the discipline for yourself. Think about down the road. That doesn't mean you have to live in squalor, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy today. But don't always just go in for the immediate gratitude and the immediate gratification. When you have your goal, it's going to take you discipline. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens without risk and without that discipline that she talked about, and really working with all of these. So, taking all of these things together, trust your gut, trust in yourself, believe in yourself, have the confidence to educate, ask questions, learn from others, and make sure you are taking that leap. You have the right, you have earned the right to create the life that you have been dreaming of. So don't hold back. It doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, your 40s, your 60s, or even your 80s. Today is your day. So take some of the messages from Brenda and make sure you are stepping out of that comfort zone and embracing the beauty of the journey that is in front of you. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you learned from it. If you took away even one little nugget from it, share it with others. Let's make sure that we are doing exactly what Brenda shared and talked about, impacting people on a global level. So make sure that you are sharing this episode and all the other episodes. I'm Clara Capano. Thank you for watching and always follow us for new episodes of Women Winning Their Way.